Namaste and in Lak'ech, and welcome to this episode of One World in a New World. I'm your host, Zen Benefiel, and as always, although I don't always say it, please do like, subscribe, share. It's what makes us more popular and benefits your life as well. And also now, I just released the book Planetary Citizens. You'll want to go to Amazon and get your copy. It will give you some phenomenal insights as to how to live your life better and more connected. Thanks. Now, this week's guest is Anthony Nayagan, and he is just an amazing gentleman, a mystique, if you will. He's got several books that he's published. Two of them in particular are Ancient Wisdom and Modern Leadership, which I know we're going to have some fun talking about today, and Supreme Realization is another title. He's a podcaster and also a minister. So this is going to be great fun. We're going to have a deep dive that you won't want to miss. We'll be right back.
Explore the thoughtless-sphere. Embark on a life-changing journey of self-discovery. Embrace harmony with self, with others, with Earth. One world in a new world. Zen Benefiel skillfully ignites conversations, guiding guests to reveal personal journeys and perspectives. Listeners are inspired to seek knowledge and find wisdom in their own lives. Join this transformative journey as we navigate the depth of human experience.
Anthony, it is so great to have you. We've had some interconnectedness on LinkedIn already. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Praise God. Okay.
In this wonderful life we live, and I know you have a better understanding of it than most because you're in development, we don't talk about that. We have two parts of our lives, an inside and outside. And these two haven't merged yet. My hopes are that by bringing conversations that we generally have inside with ourselves and rarely share with others, because when we do, we're thought of as being a little weird, crazy, maybe even insane. And, kind of people back off. Well, that's no longer necessary because these are real. People have them. It's okay to talk about them, and we're going to prove that. So in this wonderful world that you have, Anthony, how did you first recognize this seeming disparity between inner and outer worlds, or was that something that was present in your life when you were younger?
I saw that when I was very, very young. Actually, I was 4 years old.
Hmm.
And it took me in a direction I did not want to go. I wanted to be like every other kid. I want to have a very normal life like everyone else. And so
Right.
it was pretty much, I was being very resilient about it. And that is how my life began. I knew, but
So was there weird stuff that happened? What normal people might consider a bit strange, odd, unusual?
yeah, quite a bit of it. Quite a bit of it, because I find myself thinking very differently than everyone else. I find myself witnessing things very different than everyone else. I found myself not enjoying what every other kid were enjoying.
Hmm.
And so in many, many different ways, I find myself isolating from everybody else and being a social misfit, if I may consider so, or say
Oh,
so.
miscreant, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can relate to that.
yeah. And that's what I was when I was in kindergarten and starting out high school. I just did not want to be what I was. But I felt the calling at that time itself, although I denied it. Then I wanted to have a very, very normal life, so
I think we all do. We all want to fit in and feel like we
yeah,
belong.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yet, I know for me too, I because of my parental upbringing, and I was exposed to a lot of people and different social strata, and I could get along with anybody. I'd had a lot of fun. My intelligence was high enough that I did well at school and sports and all that kind of stuff, and yet I still felt like nobody really knew me.
And another thing that I started sensing very early on, I would say about 7, 8 years old, I found that religion was letting me down. I was hoping for all kinds of answers from the religion. I grew up as a Catholic, by the way, and I expected the church um, to lead me in a way that I could better experience Jesus in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself, those guys were absolutely clueless and ignorant about Jesus. Okay? Honestly, I mean, I don't have a better way of saying it, and their doctrines were outdated, and they have no, you see, knowledge must be based on experience. See, what you memorize to pass an exam, it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
But what you experience as knowledge stays with you forever. You see, unless you experience a Jesus in your life, you cannot talk about knowledge about Christ.
Mm-hmm.
There is no knowledge without experience. So tell me the experience part.
I'll give you one.
Pick one.
Yeah, he actually appeared to me in front of a group of others on a spiritual retreat and asked to speak through me. Several of them saw him. When he did,
Yeah,
I was just overwhelmed.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and yet it was real.
yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, you see, that is what all of us are meant to experience. See,
Hmm.
Isaiah says the teacher will no longer hide his face. So it is not a surprise that you have seen Jesus. It shouldn't be a surprise if I say that I have seen Jesus also.
Right.
It shouldn't
Well,
be.
it throws a cog in the wheel when you're dealing with other Christians that believe in it,
Yeah,
will immediately deny your own experience.
exactly. You see, they think it's an intellectual experience or intellectual interpretation is an
Hmm.
everything. There is no knowledge in
Oh,
intellectual.
there's no intellectualization of it at all. This is all direct experience.
Religion is about mysteries and experience.
Yeah, well, religion, reunion with God.
Yeah,
You know as well as I do. The Vedas presented, right? We're all divine threads connected to source, capable of God consciousness. Well, what's that mean? We're all co-creators. Why? Because we have to learn how to work together to make a planet whole and each other in the process. That's the kingdom,
look,
in my opinion. That's just my opinion, right?
look, we pray almost daily.
Hmm.
Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. 2,000 years, where is the kingdom? See, God created us in his image and likeness, with quantum entanglement and connectivity and all of that.
It's hard to imagine the intelligence that's and I had this question exactly the same summer that I had that experience with Jesus, 1989. My question was, where did Trinity come from?
Yeah,
Right? Because it's everywhere. And I was going through a facilitated experience, ended up being escorted across the universe, came to a three sun system with a bunch of planets around it. The three suns took one voice and said to me, "We are not only your forefathers, we're also the forefathers of your solar system." Now,
that,
and then we came back, and I had all kinds of questions. I realized that, if that's the macro, then the micro is probably the electron, proton, and neutron, because that was the smallest elements we had at the time, or thereabouts, right? But that left hydrogen out. So my question was, okay, where's hydrogen fit? It's most prevalent gas in the universe. It powers the sun, and it's also the bonding agent for our DNA helix. So is that possible that maybe the third line of that, would fill the consciousness that we have?
I'm going to tell you something. Okay. We as people of dualistic intelligence, okay, external intelligence, we always count on sensory experiences, external intelligence, how everything is ordered and structured and on a time-space kind of an order,
Sure.
humanity-based
And
intelligence.
it seems somewhat linear,
But here is the
right?
thing. But here is the thing. Okay. Not only Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, even Muhammad, okay, they are telling us something different. They are telling us that religion is about fullness in life, and that fullness is not based on external intelligence, but internal intelligence.
Absolutely.
You see,
Absolutely.
we are trying to figure out all sorts of things with our external intelligence. Fine, so be it. But the fullness of life, it has to do with your internal intelligence. It is your wisdom. And
Is it possible that all of the external actually is designed to refocus us back inside?
it's designed to tell us how limited we are. Because when you compare external intelligence to internal intelligence, which is wisdom, what we know is nothing.
Hmm.
It is a waste, it's frivolous. It doesn't even come close, to relate to what we have internally.
Yeah, it's like the question, if God made us, who made God?
Yeah, because we only
It just
have
leaves
that,
you with, well, there's got to be something
we
somewhere,
have
but
to
we
have
don't
that
have the
order.
intelligence to understand it.
We have to have that ordered way of seeing where God as a molecule going to fit into the system, so that we can order him on a time-space kind of an intellectual order and
Right.
say, okay, that is where he's going to fit in. I mean, see, that is how naive we are when it comes to external intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I say all the time to my followers, listen, when external intelligence speaks, it has a lot to say. When internal intelligence speaks, there is nothing to say. It's silence.
Mm-hmm. A still small voice within, right?
That's it. It's in stillness you come to know who you are as the image and likeness of God.
Mm.
In stillness, not in noise.
And in that too, it seems that, as I mentioned the Vedas earlier, in that infinite intelligence that we are, cosmic intelligence incarnate, condensed into form, we still have that direct connect, that individuated thread, if you will, that has and holds infinite intelligence for us individually. It's our direct connect where we ask questions about ourselves, our purpose, our how we can love more and be more, because that's direct to us, that gives us the experience of it, which is not for anybody else, it's just for us. However, by design, it seems like that then is shared with others that are in a relative harmonic that is close to us, that then we recognize because of that resonance that we have towards another.
Oh God, it crashed.
Oh, no, you're still here. We're good. Nothing crashed. It was all an illusion.
Okay, there we go. All right. I'm going to say something that the scientific community is going to be up in arms with.
Oh,
Okay.
good. I love disruptors.
Okay. We as human beings in external intelligence, we really don't have a concept of infinity. We don't have a concept of zero either. Okay. We just cannot relate to what is infinity and what is zero.
Mm-hmm.
See, infinity is everything. Okay, zero is nothing. So in spiritual terms, in terms of wisdom, it is from nothing you get everything.
Yeah,
It,
exactly.
it
Exactly. And in this, we were talking about points of light and consciousness and things like that. And we recognize that in the expression of cosmic consciousness, it's um, defined as points of light that we're surrounded. Satori, I think, is another way to experience that, or another term for it. Um, then there's this, okay, what's inside that point of light? And it's the void, which
it
is
is,
the nothingness, which is where we get everything from.
yeah. See,
And
I mean, look at one reality. For the last 2000 years, human mind has created all kinds of things, all kinds of systems, all kinds of products, businesses,
mhm,
dynasties, and colonies, and you just name it, communism, democracy, socialism, whatever, you just name it.
right.
Every single one of them came to an end. Every single one of them. There is nothing on this earth we have that is 2000 years old.
Hmm.
Okay. I mean,
Except,
and except the church. You know what I
and
mean?
it's also morphed, right? It's gone from, having the Bible
Except religion.
canonized and everybody, Constantine
Except
saying, "Ah, you're
religion.
going to believe or I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and
That kind of manipulation goes on and it
yeah,
never
still.
escapes us. But that institution is lasting. Other than that, human being is not able to do anything with their external intelligence.
Hmm.
The reason why is when you are looking at anything that starts from a material order, will have an end of its materiality.
Hmm.
Okay, material beginnings will
Now, do you think that that would also, because what I'm trying to cancel the try, what I'm investigating is that bridge, right? And do you think that perhaps referencing the Kardashev scale, which a type 1 civilization is one that uses its planetary energy.
no, no,
The,
no, no,
well,
no.
let me
See,
finish. Let me finish, please,
yeah,
before
yeah, yeah,
I'd like you to just listen to this for a moment, because
yeah.
I had the same things, right? We have a tendency, we've got this bias that we want to project, and it keeps us from listening sometimes. So with the consciousness that goes along with that type 1 civilization, which would be the energy of the planet. So you've got to be aware and connected to the planet, first of all. A type 2 then uses the energy of the solar system. So there's a consciousness involved with that that's yet again probably exponentiated. And then there's a tertiary or a third, a type 3 civilization that uses the energy of the galaxy. Now, if you consider that along with that, there is a raising of consciousness to encompass the ability to conceive, let alone act in those realms. So, you mentioned the zero to infinity. I have a 0 to 1
Yeah.
that I'm talking about it in being able to understand this multidimensionality of our being, our consciousness, and how intricately woven it is, and that we have access to it. We've just limited ourselves because of the belief systems we carry still.
You know, unfortunately, this is one of the weaknesses of writers. I have that too, in other words.
Mm,
That is, we think everything has to fit into an empirical order. You see, everything has to follow a 1, 2, 3 sequence or a bullet form, or this is how it needs to be ordered and fitting in, so that people can comprehend it.
sure. Well, that's a linear kind of
Yeah.
trajectory that
And
most of us try to find, but nothing is linear. I mean, even you and I right now, we're spinning on a planet that's spinning around a sun that's spinning around a galaxy, and none of that is linear.
everything is a potential. Everything is an infinite potential. That is what quantum physics tells us.
Mm,
Everything is infinite potential. Nonetheless, we are reducing quantum physics only to the material part of it, not the energy part of it. We don't want to talk about the energy part. Tell us where the particles are sitting.
I got into it. I totally agree with you. And I had a conversation with one of Lawrence Krauss's well-known physicist that teaches here at ASU. I had a
Oh,
conversation with his TA at a science cafe and regarding the God participle or the God particle. The God participle is one of my books.
yeah.
So I asked him, is it possible that instead of this data that they saw that reflected the decay of a particle, so they projected, oh, it must have been a particle, right?
Mhm.
Is it possible that that analysis actually revealed a rip in the fabric, the dimensional fabric that was repairing itself after that subatomic explosion? And he looked at me like a deer in the headlights. Right? So I've never seen anybody question that. They all assumed, oh, we found the particle, the Higgs boson now, and here's a particle
Yeah,
that has mass or that doesn't have any mass but gives mass to others.
yeah,
Okay, something doesn't make sense about that. Yet, what might?
yeah.
Because you got the data, you had the experiment. Is this, and the limiting viewpoints that scientists have, they're going to look, they're going to find what they're looking for, basically, because they've already made their mind up in their hypothesis of what they're going to find.
Let's do something together, Zen.
All right, I'd love to.
Let's try to transcend this empirical mind and get into the realm of wisdom.
I love
You,
it. Let's
let's
go.
do that together.
Let's go.
Okay? Because it's within wisdom, none of what you are strongly describing exists. Because in wisdom, there is no
Doesn't
order,
need to.
structure, there is no 1, 2, 3, there is no time, space, nothing. Everything is fleeting. Everything operates in some kind of a speed that is much faster than light.
Sure.
It is
Well,
absolutely pure energy and nothing else. So when you're looking for an empirical order, an argument, a case, none of that exists.
hmm,
Only
agreed.
only
You
thing
know,
that exists is pure energy. Okay. And
it's the
it's
experience that is the defining
okay.
nature.
Again, we are trying to define it. Let's not define it because
No, I mean,
definitions does
pardon me,
not
I
exist.
misspoke that it's in trying to define. It's the experience that gives you that understanding beyond words.
It's not experience, it's silence. It's going beyond the sensory experience, entering into the silence, which
Hmm.
Bible calls stillness of being. Okay? Stillness. It just
Being
says,
present.
yeah, and it says in Patanjali Yoga, is not the movements of mind, it is a cessation of mind that takes you there. You see,
Absolutely.
the reason why
Absolutely.
the reason why the whole world is failing in innovations and in creations and all of that, they don't come to realize, they don't even come to think that creation starts from an unmanifest. And
Agreed.
that is
Agreed. And
absolutely
that moment, even a micro moment of that stillness,
yeah,
because there are limitless opportunities or potentials in it. It's like, having a daydream, you blink your eyes and you're someplace else and you have a week's worth of experience and you open your eyes up and you've only had your eyes closed for a few seconds.
yeah, yeah. It's you know, look, we we get into that kind of a situations when we are dreaming. See,
Mhm.
when we are dreaming, our mind is silent. It is sleeping. Our body is sleeping. Still, our consciousness is awake. When our consciousness is awake, we can observe those things. You see, here, when we transcend our sensory being, when we transcend our mindful being and enter into pure wisdom, all we see is energy, the unmanifest, and evolving as something. It just Stay there and look at how that evolution is moving. See that, how that energy is forming. See how this energy is taking shape. Enjoy its freedom. Enjoy its vibrance. Enjoy its everything. See, then you can come back, bring your mind awake, okay? Then you
Hmm.
can go over what you witnessed. And at that time, your observation could flatten and create orders out of it.
Yes.
See,
Yeah. That's a great explanation. And
that is how
true.
you
So
become
there's
a
at least,
creative partner with God. That is how you become a creative partner with God. You see, look at what Jesus said to Philip. I see what my Father is doing, that's what I do. If you see me, you have seen my Father. Why are you questioning me?
and then he tells Thomas, don't you know that ye are God as I am God?
Yeah.
Right. So that gives us that opportunity, that door, if you will. And in this,
In quantum entanglement, we are supposed to see what is going on in the
mhm,
of our being in silence, in meditation, in transcendence. See,
that's the whole objective to it, is to
every one
tune
of us is
in.
designed. Every one of us is designed and hardwired to go there and see what the Father is doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've all
And
got that point of light. We're all, as I said before, cosmic consciousness condensed into form. It's the finding the way back home
yeah,
that we're in the midst of, and it seems that that is well in process coming out of COVID with the self-examination that was available to many who chose to do so. And now they're looking how to put their particular skill sets into action toward the greater good.
yeah.
How that's going to play out, we don't know yet because we're still in the process of creating this new normal that we have no idea what it's going to be like. And AI has just blown the lid off of time and the time it takes to do things on a
See,
fairly large scale.
look, AI is here to stay. AI can replicate everything we do with our external intelligence. So what do we do after that?
Good
Okay.
question. What do you think we should do?
Yeah. We have
Shooting on us is not a good thing. What do you think the optimal perspective of AI would be in order for us to garner the greater benefit of it?
see, look, unless we embrace that there is something called internal intelligence, and if that becomes our next frontier, if not, then we are doomed even for more disasters. We will have Alzheimer's and all kinds of mental health problems even at a young age, very
Hmm.
young age, because our mind has become useless. Okay, our mind has become totally useless. Even as it is right now, it only uses a fraction of its capability in external
And
intelligence.
what if it did? You know, we've got the common axiom, right? Is 5%, or I'm sorry, five senses, 10% of the brain. Well, what's the other 90%? Could you have 45 more senses? And what might those be?
We don't know. See, we
Well,
don't know.
I,
I mean,
I would
in,
say,
in,
yes, we don't
in,
know, but I think we
in,
have an indication of some of them, the clairals being evidence, right? Clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, and all of those, because it's a next level of inner sensitivity to that quantum entanglement that we have naturally.
you see, internal intelligence, it needs our mind. Internal intelligence, it needs our mind. Listen to this. The reason why is whatever the internal intelligence witnesses, we need to flatten it. We need to put this into an order. And that order must be done through synthesis of our mind. Our
Hmm.
mind is capable of synthesizing before engineering it. You see, right now, that synthesis is very, very relevant. So, our mind, our external intelligence, must be used to synthesize what we witness internally.
Hmm.
Flatten, synthesize, and then build. See, that is how productive we have to become. And if that happens, then the kingdom of God will come alive on this earth.
One might call that flow.
Flow? Okay.
Flow. Right? You remember Csikszentmihalyi's book, Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience. This is actually what he's talking about, like a jazz quartet, this jamming, and they just jump in and they all seem to have this beautiful conversation without having to think or do anything because they're
Yeah,
so in tune with each other.
yeah, yeah, yeah. See, this is the reason why, actually, I have a little surprise. I am conducting a seminar, not this week, next week on the 23rd. And the seminar is on cosmic systems, not cosmic, conscious systems. How do we develop conscious systems?
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. I know this our material is evergreen, and I'm not sure that date's going to matter, but it's nice to know.
Yeah. Conscious systems are possible. You see, we have to develop conscious systems that can sustain itself, not
Mhm.
a system we create that has an exit strategy. Okay. It's not that.
Absolutely. And
Develop-
doesn't this make sense though? It just makes sense that we've got all this understanding. We can look at what's been happening. We can pretty much see where we need to go
Yeah.
as far as, developing maybe not, let's say an administration, a planetary administration that
Yeah.
manages resources for everyone so that we all get what we need and that
Yeah.
there's no fear, there's no famine, there's no poverty, any of those things. We could wipe it out in a matter of years because we have the resources to do so.
Yeah. And we think we have the resources externally. That's where we are going wrong. We have
Right.
the resources internally. Okay.
Well, we
Uh,
haven't got the internal, right. We can't get out of our own ways yet in order to
yeah.
advance to that
Yeah.
level.
But we have to do that. We have to do
Absolutely.
that. I mean, if we ignore this calling, you know, if we ignore this paradigm, we are going to have dementia and we are going to have Alzheimer's. We are going to have, all of those kind of mental health disorders,
Mhm.
even as young as 20s. Okay.
The DSM is going to get thicker and we're going to have more
Yeah.
versions.
Yeah. Yeah. We are going to become so useless, as human beings. See, that is the inevitable catastrophe we are looking at.
Do you
Okay.
think that's why this neurodiversity and the DEI programs and things like that now are coming more to the forefront because we've been ignorant to the advantages of the neurodiversity instead of putting people in boxes and shoving them to the fringes because we don't understand them. Maybe there's some things there that they see that we don't that might be helpful.
Yeah. Again, we are looking for answers externally.
Uh, right, right.
See, that is where we just keep going back to the external intelligence looking for answers.
Now, let me ask you this too.
Yeah.
So, in the looking, right, or the experience,
Mm.
from my experience, there's the participant, the observer, and then the will or the wise one that's watching, right?
Mhm.
That supplies the questions or the insights or the data drops, if you will. I see God as the giver of data, right?
Mhm.
So it's just what we do with it that matters. Or not, you know. Um, are there, do you find those things too in your own experience that there's, when you're fully participating, but you may not because of the advanced nature that you have, and from our conversations, I'm aware of that. At some point, though, did you experience that trinitized view, if you will, the participant, the observer, and then the larger perspective that feeds them both?
Trinity makes sense when you are looking at um, an order, okay, that is external.
Well, this one was internal because there were different perspectives that it
Even
held
internally,
and different.
even internally, we are looking at an order.
Mhm.
Does order exist internally? Yes, it does.
Absolutely. We may
Yeah,
not understand it, but chaos is just order that we haven't seen the patterns in yet.
yeah. So it's not that, I mean, we need to transcend beyond that kind of an order to really see who God
Mhm.
is. See, when we see God as pure energy, pure consciousness, okay, call him three, call him 300, or call him 3,000. Why it has to be three? Really doesn't matter. See, God is of an infinite nature, infinite form of conscious energy.
Mhm.
Okay, so you want to kind of slice him up and make him into three? I mean, that's what we want to do as human minds.
Right.
See, but when
I
we
wonder if it's infinite or just eternal, and that in that understanding of consciousness and capacity for creation, that it too may have its limits.
eternity is infinite. You see, that's what eternity is.
True, and yet there something can be ubiquitous, infinite, and yet still have boundaries in that infinite calibration, if you will. And perhaps I'm still wrestling with this, so my
Yep.
thoughts may not be coherent or not, because I'm asking questions just like you are, right? And sometimes we don't get a chance to ask them until we have someone of the level of consciousness that could even understand them, right?
Yeah.
Let alone respond.
See, consciousness, when we talk about consciousness, we always think it has to do with a psychological mindfulness. It is not.
Mm.
Okay, it really is not. Consciousness really is what in science we call that is the quantum field. See, quantum field exists within us, quantum field exists away from us.
Oh,
Qua-
well,
qua-
we are nodes in it because it's everywhere. We're just, and
It's,
we're not even physical beings, truth be known, right? There's more space
see,
between our particles than not.
we consider ourselves as energy. See, energy is something that is very, very infinite. We cannot partition them. We cannot do anything like that as we always strive to do that.
Mhm.
We want to partition them. We want to kind of fragment them. We want to put them contain and we need to narrow them down and do all sorts of crazy things with energy. But energy actually is of an infinite nature. You see, it really is an infinite nature. It is
Right.
something
Well, this
that,
is what Tesla tried to share with us too, from what
yeah,
he was
yeah, it
able to.
is. It is. And it's not only that, an energy cannot be appreciated unless you really recognize its incredible inner freedom.
Mhm.
Okay? It's incredible inner freedom. And unless you really relax and observe or watch in its total inner freedom, actually your consciousness is so powerful you can flatten it. You see, so you really need to move away from that flattening consciousness, your psychological consciousness,
Right.
and be a part of.
No flatlanders here. There is no flat Earth, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you really need to become as free as the universal consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay, because your psychological consciousness is very unique, very unique. Okay,
When you're able to do that, would you say that what emerges when you are able to be there are the breadcrumbs of your own development, and I call it the perfected form, fit, and function in the world by design? Because we have that solar frequency as well as genetic code of which we have certain, I'm reluctant to call them predispositions, but there are certain things that we have that have come along from our history. And then there's the frequency that we carry that is individuated that ignites that history. And the consciousness gives us the ability of adjusting it to find more harmony and resonance.
See, we are talking about external factors, and we are trying to synthesize external factors. And
Hopefully, we're bridging that inner experience with an outer understanding that then can bring the two together as one. What's the very
That
heaven
is,
and earth, right?
yeah, that is where we are beginning to pollute. You see, the inner experience, in other words, the experience you feel as you witness,
Awe.
unmanifest. It's not odd. Let's not define that. You're witnessing the unmanifest. You are witnessing that primordial void. That's what you are doing. And you're seeing the energy in it. And
Hmm.
you're witnessing that. That's a very unique purity.
Absolutely. And it brings with us a certain sense
Yeah.
too.
And the thing is, the more we try to equate that with what is external, see, then we are actually corrupting, polluting what we are witnessing. See, witness, for somebody who witnessed anything at all, truth is always evolving. See, someone who is observing,
Personal truth, yeah.
see, truth is factual, truth is ordered, truth is something that is really manifested in a reality.
Sure. And there's layers of it depending on your ability to comprehend it.
Yeah, which is external intelligence.
Yeah.
When you're witnessing something, you're witnessing with your internal intelligence. See, there you are not polluting what you witness with what you already know, with your perceptive intelligence. You are
Well,
not.
there's still that it would seem anyway that balancing act internally, maybe not a balancing act, but a synthesizing, right? A synthesis and an evaluation, bringing forth a greater
What it is,
understanding
look,
through
this is
that.
where we are failing. You see, for us, when you witness something, it is not a sensory thing. Your sensory experiences are silenced. Your mind is silenced. Your witness becomes a pure witness. You're
I'm not
just,
talking necessarily about the mind. I'm talking about the being, right? Because your mind's only one thing. Your body is a transceiver. Yes, it's attached to the mind. However, there's sensations that we have, and most of us live from the shoulders up. We have no idea what's going on in our bodies. And yet those two are connected.
um, look, witnessing without sensorily being involved in it, it is a miraculous gift you have. Okay? I'll give you one example.
Mm.
See, a true orgasm is not sensory. Your sensory experience is silenced. The minute it becomes active, then the actual the experience of it becomes diluted. You see, true orgasm is a conscious experience.
It's
It's
transcendent.
it's a transcendent experience
Yeah,
away from your mind and your body. See, it is in that experience a man and a woman become one. You know.
sure. Well, I think we could have that experience in our personal lives.
Yes, because God created us to experience that. You see,
Hmm.
God created man and woman so that they can unite and become one consciousness, not one body. Okay, and that happens during that conscious experience where our body and mind are transcended.
Right.
That is when we get the true experience of it. The
Well, and
minute
there's also a term, the twin flames, right? I heard this term, gosh, when 20, 30, maybe even 40 years ago. Always
yeah,
wondered about it, wondered if it was possible to have that pure twin that's the other half of you in, for me, it would be in the feminine form, for a woman, it would be in the masculine form.
yeah,
And when I met my wife at her Kundalini yoga
yeah,
teacher training graduation, um, it there was a recognition that we both had instantly. And as our lives evolved together, the layers that we peeled back, the litany of the identifying factors that indicate potential of a twin flame relationship, they were all there and then some.
yeah.
So, and it's gotten to the point now where we barely have to speak. And when we do, we're not sure which one's actually speaking, where the
Again,
thoughts came from.
Our intellectual minds want to know empirically how that works. Okay, it doesn't work according to our external intelligence. But
Not at all.
in pure consciousness, it works. And
Yeah. Well, that's where the total love is. The total love, trust. When you submit,
yeah,
submit. When you submit yourself to another completely, fearlessly, that's where the pure love that has no fear is.
in a conscious embodiment, yes, it happens.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it happens. See, in Hinduism, they call that Arthanadishvara, which means you have both man and a
Right.
woman in one form.
Right.
See, that realization will come to fruition when you are in absolute wisdom.
Now,
And
where's the Shabda come into that? The
well,
Shabda.
what's that?
The
Nisabda.
Shabda, the sound current.
I don't understand what you're saying. Maybe I'm not understanding.
Hindu. It's Shabda.
Spell it for me.
Shabda.
Shabda.
Right? Because there's a frequency.
Shabda.
That high-pitched frequency I was talking about before we came on. There's that sensation that when you're in that silent, connected place,
See,
the only thing I can illustrate it with is referenced in the Shabda, right? The combination of all the frequencies, and that's what you're able to hear. It's a very
not just
high-pitched
the
sensation.
frequencies, it's not only the frequencies, it's the vibration of the cosmic sound. That's what Shabda is.
Yeah,
The vibration of the cosmic sound.
yeah.
And that's the basis of everything. That's the basis
Now,
of life.
what do you do when you hear that all the time, right? When I had my experience as a teen, that was the
Yeah,
reference that I gave, right? The effervescent, iridescent, high-pitched sensation, right? Because every time you go there, whenever I'm quiet, even when I'm talking,
yeah.
sometimes if because I'm able to focus attention, right? I'm aware
You
of that.
really want to know the answer to that?
Is there? I don't know.
There is.
It's just an awareness.
There is. There is. Actually, if you're hearing that all the time, that means you have transcended death itself. That's really what it means.
Oh, wow. Well, according to that experience, I gave my life up to know truth and then came back in body with the awareness that we're all cosmic consciousness condensed into form, just unaware. So
It's,
we are all eternal
it's,
beings. I just happen to have a heads up on it.
there is so much energy going on inside of us, outside of us. We don't see it.
Yeah.
Okay. But that is the true reality of our being. It's not our body. It is the true reality of our eternal being. Okay. And when the
These are
energy,
just ways to experience what we've created.
yeah, and when that energy is in constant motion, don't you think it's generating some kind of a shabda? It is. You see?
Absolutely.
So that really means that you have witnessed yourself as pure energy and pure consciousness. So that means you have transcended death. Okay, that's really what it is.
mhm.
I mean, you really have gone far from it. Okay.
That I know. It's hard to share that sometimes without getting a raised eyebrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But yet there's thousands, millions of near-death experiences.
Yeah.
I haven't found one of them to be reflective of the kind that I had, because most of those are produced by trauma of some kind.
Yeah.
What do we do with that? How do we build upon that so that it is more pure shareable energy as opposed to constricted and separative? Which
See,
is where the world's at right now.
look, we have a choice. Okay. We can live a limited life. Okay. Considering ourselves as limited beings and just go on. Okay. Go on the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
No judgment,
that's
right?
okay. We've been doing it
Whatever.
for thousands of years anyway.
Yeah.
So there is nothing changes there. That's what it is. Okay. On the other hand, Jesus died to restore in us the fullness of life. Remember that fullness of life. Fullness of life means external intelligence and internal intelligence. And he said again and again emphatically,
Mm-hmm.
your life is inside of you. Wisdom is inside of you. Your life and the wisdom is going to teach you everything. He even said to the Samaritan woman, it is your spirit and the wisdom it reveals to you. That is how you're going to worship God. And the hour is coming, it is going to happen.
Right.
See, 2000 years it hasn't. Because
Well,
we
and then he went, for the 40 days, he traveled the world and appeared to many people, many places, came back, and then obviously
yeah.
showed, oh,
But
gosh, guess what else you guys can do? You can take your bodies with you
yeah.
and
You
travel.
but the thing is, you see, um, was Jesus the only one who said that? No.
Mm-mm.
All the avatars, all the prophets who came to this world, they came to deliver humanity from their bondage of external intelligence,
Limitation.
limitations. Okay? That is what they came to deliver them from. We are still holding on to it.
Mm-hmm.
The caretakers of the legacies of Krishna, of Buddha, of Christ, and everybody, what they did, they created institutional religions that took away the inner freedom, that took away the fullness of life and the hope for a fullness of life in mankind, in humanity, and they
Right.
controlled them and they institutionalized them. And
Well,
they,
they couldn't understand it, and so that's the only way that,
yeah,
if
because
we
they
do,
were
right?
caretakers.
Oh,
I
wow,
mean,
this is great. Let's put it into a book, a program, a
yeah,
process, a
yeah.
prescriptive
But
notion,
look,
and
the
and
miracle,
let's not forget to test the people on it.
yeah, the miracle of all miracles, you see, the apostles of Jesus, they realized their fullness of being. See, the caretakers who took over from them, none of them raised to the legendary status of his apostles or Jesus himself. They just became caretakers
Mhm.
of the philosophies. And all the caretakers they did was they tried to kind of, manage their interpretation of their philosophy, in a way that it kind of intellectually and empirically fits into an external intelligence. As far as internal intelligence is concerned, yeah, that'll happen.
And that's just with this world.
That's what with this world. So we have
And
been,
there are others who may or may not be far advanced, however they appear to be with their ability to go through space and time in the way that they do. And, there's
look,
many experiencers
this
of that.
kind of misguided religious interpretations, it exists in all religions.
Hmm.
It exists in absolutely in all religions. Even in Hinduism, it does. In Buddhism, it does.
Well, we try to take that infinite and make it finite.
Yeah. And we all do that, you know, and we kind of invent philosophies and we think, well, our philosophies are the doctrines. See? And that's how we have been doing things for the last 2000 years. The tragedy is we are not the fullness of beings that Jesus died
Yet.
in us, that Krishna came to destroy, to establish in us. Buddha came to, vehemently preach to us, get into that fullness of being. Nah, we didn't.
Well, and it's, I think maybe we've gotten tired of the preaching and the proselytizing when it's just an invitation.
It's actually, we don't think, I mean, for some reason, we are so immune to thinking that God and religion is supposed to give us real encounters, real experiences. You
It
see,
does, but we have to fully, as we were talking before, you have to give your life to it. You have to commit that deeply. And gosh, the C word is a C word still, right? Commit. Oh my God.
no, it is true. But I tell you something, the C word that I like to use, at least be curious.
Yes, that's the perfect one, right?
Yeah, and that is a C word I like to use. Be curious. You see, curiosity is something that can take you places.
Oh,
Okay? That
it
can
can take you
heal.
so many places. I've been accused of being radically curious because
Yeah,
I ask questions nobody else asks. And
yeah,
they just seem ripe. They're like low-hanging fruit. It's like, gosh, doesn't anybody else see these questions here? Well, am I the only one that can see them
yeah,
and ask them?
yeah.
That's um, it really launches into some great discussions sometimes after people, find themselves again.
Yeah.
Right?
You
Because
know,
there's certain questions you can ask of people that just stop them in their tracks because it questions their entire belief system.
it's one of the analogies I use all the time. And that is to compare external intelligence to what we have inside.
Hmm.
See, before we even turned 2 years old, we knew how to speak a language. We didn't know grammar, we didn't know alphabets, we didn't know vocabularies. We knew nothing.
Right.
Nobody taught us any of those things, but we knew the way to do that. Now we have grown up. Now we know the technicalities of learning a language. Tell me how long it takes for you to learn a second language. You see, it is something you did as an infant by the time you were 2 years old. See,
Hmm.
and that is the difference between what your internal intelligence can teach you and what you are so caught up in the external intelligence.
Hmm.
Okay. All it requires, and this is not what I say, this is not what Anthony Nayagan is telling you, this is what Jesus said. If you have the mind of a child, you will get it.
Well, he says, "Be thee like little children,"
Yeah.
and
Just
that,
be like the little children. You will get it. You will
yeah.
get all the wisdom in the world and the kingdom, you
Well,
know,
there's the
on earth.
crux of the curiosity, right? Show me a
All
child
begins with the
that's in that
curiosity
age
of a
that's
child.
not curious.
Yeah. Oh, it all begins with the curiosity of a child.
Yeah,
Ever curious mind. You know.
right. There's no fear there. There's just curiosity. What's this? What's that? I gotta touch this. Oh, it burns. Oh, that's not gonna touch that again, right?
It is that curious mind. And when you have that curiosity, you will not only have all the wisdom on earth, okay, that is one. The second thing is the kingdom will come on earth as it is in heaven. Because those who have the mind of the child will inherit the kingdom of God. That is according to Jesus.
Hmm. It's kind of that I see it in a way as the marriage of heaven and earth, right? The consciousness is heaven. The earth is who we are. Every cell in our body is made from earth.
Yeah. Well, earth is also consciousness. I mean, look, we are consciousness inside. See,
Well, therein is the bridge, right?
every particle and subatomic particles in our being, okay, is encapsulated with conscious energy.
Hmm.
Encapsulated with conscious energy. Even at a higher level, we are an embodiment of about 70 trillion cells. Can you imagine the encapsulated consciousness in our system, in our body itself?
Oh, absolutely. This is why I was talking about the sensory, right? With our body, it's our transceivers. They're able to
Yeah,
navigate when I see our body as an instrument. Whether we learn how to tune them or not is up to us. In order to play in concert with others, we got to be in pretty good tune.
yeah,
Otherwise, we're going to have kerfuffles. We're going to have arguments at work, or we're going to not get along with our spouse, or
yeah,
it's all about us.
yeah.
And we like to push it off on others, saying it's about them. Well, no, it's your ability to navigate in your own self-love in
Yeah,
order to share that with another.
exactly. 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 Unless you love yourself, there is no emancipation.
Hmm.
And in order for you to love yourself, you need to have knowledge about yourself.
Right.
Without self-knowledge, there is no self-realization. Okay? Self-knowledge is key to self-realization.
Oh, absolutely. Now, what do you think? Yeah, do I want to get into the Thetonic being? The Greek word Thetan is where we get our word Satan from my research. It means thinker, right? So we're all Thetonic by nature. We're all thinkers. How do you think that we can rise above those? Let me ask a better question. What do you see as evidence in the world today of this capacity that we have to rise above our limiting human selves?
Okay. Um, Number one, we need to realize everything is a mystery, not factual. Every witness there is, it's a mystery that's always moving. Okay. And the only way you can come to witness it is when you are in search of mysteries, not when you are in search of facts.
Well, even that scripturally, we're told to seek the mysteries of God.
Yeah, seek the mysteries of God. So consider everything as a mystery. See, even when you're observing a particle, when you're looking at a particle is encapsulated with quantum field.
Mm-hmm.
Go after the quantum field, because that's what makes everything happen, not the particle. See, when we have a mind that develops into observing the quantum field, you see, then we are becoming altogether a different creatures. See, when we are obsessed with a particle, then that's different. You see,
Right. Well, when we turn the waves into particles through our observations, is it possible that we can manage that better by or through our awareness?
are you talking about particles or are you talking about the quantum field?
Well, both, because in that quantum field, right, there's this, the observer has an effect on the
See,
experiment, right?
the particle can be anything you want to be as long as you have full awareness of the field that encapsulates it.
Mm-hmm.
You can even alter the shape, alter the particle. You know, to that extent, your mind is powerful.
The
The
reason I'm asking that is that I had an experience of necromancy one night where a friend of mine appeared at the end of the bed after I asked if I could talk to him, and I said, Jesus, but be your will be done. Can I talk to Steve? And it's my friend.
yeah,
And he'd died in a motorcycle accident 3 weeks before. But he appeared at the end of the bed. And I asked, I said, am I projecting you? I know how powerful my mind can be. Am I projecting your image there, or are you really there? And about that time, the end of the bed moved, and he had his foot up on the edge of the bed, sitting, like this and smiling at me. He says, how's that? Right? What can you do then, except just accept the reality of what's happening?
mhm,
Now, in that, do we hold ourselves back because we're afraid of what we might see, not only within ourselves, but in the world itself as a result?
look, I'm going to tell you what Jesus kept on telling you again and again and again and again. Don't be afraid. Have no fear. Don't be afraid. Because the minute you start to fear, truth becomes elusive, love becomes elusive, your faith becomes elusive, your trust becomes elusive. Everything goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Don't fear. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid even of God. Okay? And when you have these kind of
Oh, I
encounters,
get that. I totally would, our audience is gonna go, but.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the more you fear, the disaster happens immediately. You are just moving away from love.
Sure. Now, here's another question, and I totally agree. Love is all there is. That's the energy.
Yeah, but if
And
you're afraid, it's going to dispel love.
well, you're not going to be
Fear
available to it
dispels
because you're
love.
constricted. If you fear, it's like the cortisol, right? When you have fear, the cortisol injects into your body and it closes your system.
That's
You're
it.
not available.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um, oh gosh, there was a question I was going to ask that went off on another tangent and
yeah,
it eluded me for a moment.
yeah.
Um, had to do with the energy of love and being able to acquiesce to that
Mhm.
in our daily lives on a regular basis and be able to move through those fears. What are some of the things that you can suggest that a person may do to test this, because it loves to be tested, right?
Mhm, mhm.
It proves itself true every time. It gets 100 on the test, regardless of whether,
Yeah,
what our perspective is. So
that-
how would we test that? What might we do on a real practical level on a daily basis that would assist that synergistic display?
see, that mystery is answered in an incident in the Bible, in the gospel. That is Peter's walk on the water. See, and Peter was walking on the water. He was pure consciousness. He was not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Matter will sink. Okay, matter is subject to gravitational pull. See that when you are pure consciousness, gravity is doing nothing to you. Okay, so he was able to walk on the water. Okay, so he was in the form of pure consciousness. What happens? He's a fisherman. He knows a thing or two about water. He knows that, he's fully aware of people drowning.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes a matter all of a sudden. And then he drowns. See, what,
True. Now,
what
and
is
again,
Jesus?
so let's bring it down, because
Yeah,
in the reality of this world, there are those that have the daily jobs and are in these regimens of life, if you will, that
see,
are somewhat
let me finish my
fearful in still. So I'm trying to
let,
give
let me
them
finish
some
this.
nuggets
Okay,
that
I
they
think
can.
when I finish what I was trying to say, you will get the answer to that.
Okay.
Trying to
Well, I'm
drag
aware of the answer. I'm trying to pull it out so that we
yeah,
can share it with
the,
others
the
in a way,
reason
in another
the,
voice other than my own.
the reasoning is actually the answer is in the reaction of Jesus. What did Jesus say? Ye of little faith. See, what did Jesus say? Think about what did he say? Ye of little faith.
So what I'm hearing you say is that faith in yourself to do whatever it is that is put in front of you is
Faith,
important.
faith that you are a conscious being.
Mm-hmm.
Conscious being, not a matter. As long as you are a conscious being, you can walk on the water.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, we're talking about multiple, years of experience in developing too. Yes, it can happen in the blink of an eye. Agreed.
Yeah.
However, most of this self-development process is incremental. So on a basic level, what could a person who is in a daily churning and burning, if you will, what can they do to step onto this path and
Yeah.
find some solace in the practice of something on a daily basis?
Right. That is a great question. Um, and the answer is actually straightforward. Okay. But it requires a lot.
Hmm.
Number one, you need to become very curious, to realize your own consciousness, the conscious being that you are, not the matter. Okay.
Don't
And
mind, it doesn't matter. Right?
yeah, you have to become very curious about it. You see, then in your curiosity, understand one thing, the answer is not in empirical intelligence. Answer is not out there. The answer is within you.
Hmm.
So start to seek within you. You don't need to go on a long journey. You don't need to go on all those, long walks and move from one ashram to the other ashram. You don't need to do any of that.
What is it? Bhakti yoga? That's the walking meditation, right? You can do it at work. You just have to be quiet and have that resident thought on your mind, or the question, the curious question, and
Stay
just
with,
be with it.
stay within and just go inside.
Yeah.
When you are inside, see, it is very hard, see, to transcend your mind and be awake. Your body will immediately interpret that as you're going to go to sleep. Say, what I tell everybody is, okay, are you starting out? Fine. Have a few pillows around you. Okay. At least start. If your body is saying you're sleeping, go to sleep. Okay.
That's
Because
usually what happens initially. Yeah, because it's like being in a positive vortex. It puts you to sleep.
Just go to sleep. God does wonderful things to you when you are sleeping.
No.
So you are not without hope when you are sleeping. Go to sleep.
But we don't want to be a sleeping prophet. We want to be awake one.
Okay, what you do is you stay awake seconds at a time. Today, try to stay awake. Be mentally sleeping, bodily transcended, mentally transcended. Stay awake for 2 seconds. Try tomorrow for 5 seconds. Try the next day for 10 seconds. Just increase seconds at a time. Then you can actually, it will turn into hours. Then it can even turn into 24 hours. You are in that state. That's a state of nirvana. State of samadhi, state of nirvana. That is where you.
It's not just the name of a band.
Yeah, it's actually the state of Shabda. That is when you hear that cosmic sound all the time, because you're witnessing yourself as an energy.
And it's not tinnitus.
No, 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 not at all. And it happens. It really happens, and it is.
I know. I'm living proof of it. Whether you believe me or not, because you're not inside my body and nobody else is. It's like Jesus said, don't judge or criticize unless you can walk in their shoes. Well, you can't fit in their body. They've got a body already. It's occupied. Leave it
Yeah,
alone.
yeah. What's wrong with my?
So
Yeah.
in this, this has just been an amazing conversation. And
Praise
wow,
God.
it's everything I dreamed of and more.
Yeah.
I hoped it would be.
Praise God.
And I hope it was that way for you too. I mean, this was really a wonderful exchange.
It really is. I mean, see, I come across all kinds of people, um, but people who have true mystical inclinations, they are few and far between. Um, you know,
I'd like to increase that.
yeah, in among the so-called mystics, there are way too many imposters, and it's sad. It really is sad because you see, it is one of those things that was actually started by Indian gurus and Swamijis, who actually packaged spirituality as a kind of a mindful, uh, sort of a,
Oh, it was a
and
profit center.
yeah. So it turned out to be, they can go after the low-hanging fruits and they can make a lot of money. And so they have packaged yoga, they have packaged meditation, they have packaged spirituality, they have packaged everything
Hmm. No,
to an
okay,
audience.
so I'm going to, I totally agree with you. And there's a flip side of it. People are getting what they need. They're paying for it. They're working in the existing system that they're aware of
Yeah,
and incrementally being able to transcend from that, even though from your perspective, it's profit over people and planet as opposed to people and planet over profit,
yeah,
which is the new normal that we're attempting to get to.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's the way it's supposed to be. You see,
Hmm.
I mean, come on. See, Jesus did not collect tithings from everybody. Okay, yet he was not poor. He had a very operational, functional thing going on,
Oh,
as far
absolutely.
as
Yeah.
ministry is concerned.
Yeah,
Okay.
he had the God Corp going on.
Yeah, he had it, but he was not collecting from everybody, give me tithing 10% of your income. That he did not do.
No,
Eh,
no, he asked for those that could.
Even that he did not. He actually gave everything to them. Of course, he kind of, the benefactors came along and
Oh,
supported
yeah.
him in
Yeah,
doing
really, bottom line, well, it was the disciples that said, "Hey, can you?" And the rest would say, "Well, yeah, sure." Right.
yeah,
We want to support that energy. And
yeah,
it's the desire, I think, when that, for lack of a better purity,
yeah,
when that authentic energy is
yeah,
present, there's a desire to either be part of and or serve it,
yeah, yeah,
not as a servant,
yeah,
as a fellow traveler.
yeah.
So,
See, Jesus emphasized servant leadership. Leaders get paid, servants don't. Okay.
and
It-
now it's possible that we can flip that into the servant leadership because of the framework that we're in and the systems that are in place that have simply been mismanaged up until now, and that there is this trend that's happening, especially with servant leadership. You know, I can remember in the 80s, I got in interpersonal skills classes instituted in an aerospace company. And I went through all kinds of stuff, including being shunned by the entire department when I brought it up initially.
yeah,
And and yet, you know, after I left the company, it took them 4.5 years to institute it. It happened. Now there's emotional intelligence, which is what that was then. We just didn't call it that.
yeah,
Now that emotional intelligence has evolved into servant leadership because it's the people that matter, not the product
yeah.
or the service. You got to have, you're serving the team. You're making sure that everyone around you has what they need, is nourished in whatever way is necessary in order to be
Servant,
part of that team.
servant leadership is not really a beatitude. Servant leadership is a way to have a system in your company in which all of the elements in the company draws from the leader. See, when you're looking at a tree doesn't pump nutrients into the branches, into the leaves, into the flowers. It doesn't.
Hmm.
All of these elements draws from the tree. And the
Right.
tree draws from the soil, it draws from the sun. You see, everything is drawing, from the source. See, that is really what natural intelligence is. You draw from the source. Man invented pumping energy. The pumping is a man-made idea. In
Hmm.
natural system, it isn't. Natural system, the elements draws from the
It
source.
flows.
Yeah,
It flows. There's no push or pull.
yeah,
There's flow.
yeah.
And that happens ubiquitously in every energetic field when you know that it's in
That's
harmony.
exactly how it works.
Yeah.
So you create an establishment, you create a system where the leader, everybody draws from the leader. See, it is not the other way around. The leader doesn't walk around pumping things into them. No.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
See, they come and
That's what
drop.
I'm talking about. The leader pays attention to what's necessary and allows things to flow through them to the others.
Yeah. See,
And
that is what servant leadership is in an ordered progression.
yeah.
The attitude and emotional intelligence and all of that, that is secondary to it.
Hmm.
In an ordered progression, imitate a natural system. See, where the tree is there to serve.
May we all be trees, Anthony.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And have our roots deep.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been just
And the
amazing.
earth is there to serve, not to take.
Yeah.
The tree is there to serve, not to take. You see, everything is there to serve. So that is how it evolves. Imitate a natural system in your organizations.
Yep.
Yeah,
And in life, it's everything that is natural. It is a
yeah,
natural order that we are learning to
yeah.
perceive to begin with, and our perspective changes so that we can see it larger and embrace it and make
Yeah.
it and bring it into our
See,
own
this
life.
is this is actually the concept of my conscious systems. Conscious systems involves,
Hmm.
the kind of servant leader, phenomenon incorporated in a strategic way. See, that's what it is. And if
That's
you,
awesome. You know, and those are the kinds of things that are necessary. That
yeah,
things like, your books, my books, others' books, there are others like us who
yeah,
are doing this same thing
yeah,
in their way
yeah,
and building this resonant field, I kind
Yeah.
of call it the thoughtmosphere, right?
Yeah.
From which that then can feed others who are curious.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you for your curiosity, Anthony. It's led us to here and now, and I appreciate the time and space you've shared and the insight and wisdom that you have hold and freely share with others. It's spectacular. Thank you very much.
God bless. God bless. Namaste.
And namaste and in Lak'ech. And thank you for sticking with us for this episode of One World in a New World. I'm Zen Benefiel, your host. And by all means, one last time, like, subscribe, and share. It shows your love. And I'll see you next time. Do you ever feel like you're in your 40 days and nights in the desert? Well, many do. There's too much frustration, pain, and suffering in the world today. And I help people through that to find joy and happiness in their lives, to create action plans, and find a way to achieve their goals. I've done that with many. If my reputation online is anything like I show up in person, you've got a great score here. Do you ever feel like you're in your 40 days and nights in the desert? Well, many do. There's too much frustration, pain, and suffering in the world today. And I help people through that to find joy and happiness in their lives, to create action plans, and find a way to achieve their goals. I've done that with many.